I want to make sure I have all of my reference books in order. Because we have a lot to deal with today. You know, we're completing the 9-week series on spiritual mind treatment. Now, spiritual mind treatment, if you're just joining us, is a positively framed form of meditation that is very similar to prayer, but with some significant differences to it. And I've been saying that every single week, because I want to make sure we're on the same page about this very important practice in our movement, spiritual mind treatment. And we've been talking about it for the last 2 months. We started talking about the form of it, understanding how it fits together so that when I do it, I know what I'm doing. It makes sense to me. It's not a mystery. And then this month, we've been talking about the feeling inside a spiritual mind treatment, how important it is that it's authentic, that it's real for me, that I understand the words that I'm using and what I'm doing. That's what we've been doing. And you can catch up because all of the videos and audio are available in our website. And if you want to learn more about the science of mind behind all of this, you're invited to that free class you heard announced a moment ago on Wednesday evening. It's open to anyone, and there's no fee for it. 7 p.m., and we'll be using Dr. Ernest Holmes' very first book. He wrote this when he was a young man, so it's very feisty and opinionated. And this is a new edition. It's updated and gender neutral, which makes it really wonderful to read. So that's what's going on Wednesday evenings. Now, this final week's topic is set loose your consciousness. Set it free. And here's what it's all about. In addition to everything we've learned about spiritual mind treatment, which is also called affirmative prayer, in addition to learning that you've got to know what your purpose is, you've got to understand your intention when you do this work, we also learned that you've got to know that it's not about manipulating people and the world around you. You've got to know that it's at its heart is about seeing things rightly, spiritually speaking. In addition to all of these very important and serious things, there is also another factor in spiritual mind treatment, which I call the fun factor, the creative factor. And it's based on this idea that thought is creative, even more creative than action is. Now, we've studied that in the past. We've talked about the power of intentions. We've talked about the power of beliefs. We've talked about the power of mind. We've read what the Master, Jesus of Nazareth, had to say about it is done unto us according to our belief, according to what we have faith in. We heard from Don Miguel Ruiz and the Ruiz family about the importance of being impeccable with your words because of the power that words have to heal or to harm according to the intent, according to the thought that is behind them. So when we are talking about the power behind thoughts, we are not introducing some new idea that was thought up yesterday. We're simply bringing the awareness of the power of our thinking into our spiritual mind treatment, into our prayer, into our meditation. We want to understand that the words and the thoughts that we use are important. So we want to be accurate with our thinking and our words. We want to be authentic and sincere. We want to use words that are true to our heart. We want to stay mindful to the idea that thoughts tend to influence and inform and inspire not only us, but also the way things happen out there in the world. So what we use in our spiritual mind treatments matters. Now, I have a friend who is not from the center. He's not a member of the Center for Spiritual Living. He's from another faith tradition altogether, and he thinks we're kind of woo-woo. Anyway, I was talking to him the other day about a publishing deadline I have. It's today, actually. And he was trying to be helpful, and he said to me, when I was a young man and I was at school, and if I had a homework assignment, say, for example, it was due on Monday, you know what I would do? I would just say to myself, that homework assignment will be submitted on Monday on time. And then I would just trust that somehow it would work out. And it always did. And I said to him, really? Is that so? How come it makes sense when you say it? But when I say it, it's woo-woo. And we had a good laugh about that, you see, because he was saying something that many people discover just through observation about how the world works. He was saying something that many people have said, that when you put your mind to something and you sincerely accept it as being so, it's going to have an influence on the way things roll out. That's just the way of things. Now, I don't know why he thinks intentionality works for him, but I know what I think. It's because of what we're made from. It's because of what lives in us. It's because of our kinship with this spiritual universe. It's because we are made in the image and likeness of that which creates. That's what we're going to be exploring on Wednesday nights. This idea that my personal use of my mind is a use of the creative power of the universe. Oh, it's going to be good. So, with that in mind, I could decide I could use my mind to do anything. I could even use my mind to imagine a greater yet to be. Why not? Because I'm understanding that when I'm doing that, in some way I'm invoking a holy creative power. I could say it like that. Oh, imagination's a wonderful thing. Isn't that a wonderful thing? What a gift, an imagination, to be able to think up things that have never been thought before. Oh, my goodness. And apparently Albert Einstein said of imagination that it is more important than knowledge. Because knowledge is limited. But imagination encircles the world infinitely. And remember Carl Sagan, the atheist who inspired me to believe in God. He said, imagination will often carry us to worlds that never were. But without it, we go nowhere. Or Henry David Thoreau, the world is but a canvas to the imagination. And our own founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, in the reading assigned to us this week in this book, Living the Science of Mind, he says to us that we must let ourselves play in the field of imagination. He says we must let ourselves imagine a greater yet to be. He says that we must let ourselves practice accepting ideas about our lives that are greater than the ideas that we had yesterday. He said that we must let our consciousness loose to roam about and dream. Oh, I like that. You see, it reminds me that spiritual mind treatment is not only about addressing and solving problems. No, there is a creative element in it too, a playful creative element too. And in fact, in the same reading later on, Dr. Ernest Holmes says that we will not get as much out of our spiritual mind treatment as we could if we do not allow our imagination, and here's the quote, to range in the field of greater possibilities. Range. Oh, I like that. Your range means to roam about, to stretch out, to extend. We are to extend, to stretch ourselves out in the field of greater possibilities. We're to get into it. We're to explore it. And he says the way to do it is to take time daily, and here's another lovely phrase, for the enlargement of consciousness. What does that mean? And what is consciousness? Well, there is a glossary of terms in the big book of Science of Mind that we can go and look up what he means when he says consciousness. All right, let's go look it up. Consciousness. Mental awareness. Oh no, the rest of it's much too complicated. I'll just tell you what he means. He says basically that there's two parts to our consciousness. Our surface mind, where we have all of our awareness, our willpower, our decision, our choices, our imagination. And then there is our deeper mind, which is creative and unconditional, and it accepts whatever you place into it with your surface mind. Two parts. So when he says we must enlarge our consciousness, he means our surface mind. What are you feeding it, and is that big enough? He means the things we think about all day. Is it the same old, same old, same old, same old, same old? He means the stuff that we get hooked on, and is that too narrow? He means that's the place where we are to get bigger and to use your imagination to get bigger, because your deeper mind will follow where you go. So, we're invited to take more risks in there and dare to imagine a life in which Republicans and Democrats talk to each other with genuine respect. No, with love, as citizens of the same nation, united in interest but different opinions. Or dare to imagine a world in which the homelessness in Santa Rosa is resolved efficiently, quickly, with love, with compassion. Or dare to imagine a world in which the wasted excess of food in the United States of America is given to the hungry with respect and love. Or imagine a world in which relationships are formed and dissolved with mutual respect and kindness and love. Or imagine a world in which forgiveness is the norm. Or imagine a world, well, it's your imagination. So let it roam about. Get risky. Get audacious. Get big, not petty. Large. And we can and ought to take advice from Alice in Wonderland, who said, "But I nearly forgot. You must close your eyes, otherwise you won't see anything." You hear that? Oh, you and I cannot take our cues from the world out there for what it means spiritually. We will be fooled. If you look at what is going on out there, and you will be fooled. Oh, it makes me think, it's not just Ernest Holmes or Alice in Wonderland who said it. Remember Jesus of Nazareth? Judge not by outward appearances. Or Krishna. You cannot see the divine glories with these mortal eyes. You must look with celestial eyes, and you must look beyond the pairs of opposites. Is what you're looking at limiting or growing your consciousness? Now, some things to keep in mind. Number one, Number one, your deeper mind is not a gatekeeper that lets in only one kind of thought and excludes the other. No, it's more like a computer. Think of it as a computer that receives input from you, the user, through your spiritual mind treatment. That's number one. Number two, growing your consciousness through using your imagination does not ever in any circumstance replace completing your duty and being active in the world. No. All of these people I've been quoting, they were all movers and shakers and influencers. They all understood the importance of using their imagination to expand their consciousness while doing their duty in the world. That's number two. Number three, we're thinking inside a field of limitless possibilities. It's important to remember that. So even if your life is great, if it's fine, wonderful, you don't have to get stuck there. There could be more. You could imagine even greater joy, even deeper connection, even more abundance. And then with all the good that comes from that, you could help other people. You could donate to causes that are important to you. You could change lives. You could beautify the neighborhood. You could fund projects. You could help create a world that works a little better for everyone else. You see, don't worry about other people's consciousness. Just get yours so high that you are irresistible to the good things that want to come flowing through you, and love them and honor them and be proud of them, and don't compare the good that comes through you with anybody else's good. You will be fooled. That's number three. Number four. A quote from Ernest Holmes from Living the Science of Mind. No matter how much good we experience today, we should expect more tomorrow, because expectancy of better yet to come helps dissolve the burdens which we carry with us. We must learn to let loose our consciousness, because nothing is too good to be true. Oh, it made me think, what am I expecting? What are you anticipating? What are you waiting for? What are we imagining? And then Dr. Holmes, in that same passage, he tells us that we are to increase our receptivity by saying in our spiritual mind treatment. Now, you know how to do a spiritual mind treatment from all of these weeks. And right in that middle part, he says we are to say to ourselves, good and more good is mine. An ever-increasing good is mine. There is no limit to the good which is mine. Everywhere I go, I see this good. I feel it. I experience it. It crowds itself against me. It flows through me. It expresses itself in me and multiplies itself around me. That's number four. And here comes the but. But please, don't mistake this message today to be sit down, ignore the world, and think pretty thoughts. You see, this message is the last in a series of 9 messages. Can you see why we didn't start with this message? You got to end with it. Can you see how playing in the field of imagination depends on having all the other pieces in place first? Otherwise, this could seem like a superficial invitation to magical thinking. See, without the foundation of this past 2 months, this could seem ridiculous. without sincerely exploring what this thing, divinity, God, is to you, authentically, you'll have no foundation upon which to do this. Without authentically feeling and nurturing your sense of relationship to this, the ground of all being, you might start thinking of God as the vending machine in the sky. Without understanding the difference between statements of accurate spiritual truth and wishful thinking, you might start to get superstitious about life. And without taking time daily, twice a day, to do the kind of positively framed meditation that we call spiritual mind treatment, you might become one of those people who expect something for nothing. See, it's very tempting to think of spirituality as simply positive thinking, when in fact, positive thinking without a foundation in genuine and understood love, positive thinking without inquiring into my motives and stripping them of all mischief, positive thinking without letting go of manipulation and negative personality complications could be troublesome, to say the least. And could you see how important it is to have a sound spiritual foundation when talking about such things as wealth and prosperity and abundance? And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about next week. The mature spirituality under this world we live in, and why we call it abundant, and how to relate to it in a conscious, sincere way. That's where we're going. So I invite you to breathe in with me now, and to exhale, letting your eyes close. There is one infinite field of possibilities, potential. The ground of all being. The intelligence of creation. One living Spirit Almighty. And I exist within it, as does everybody in this auditorium. I say my mind is a center of divine activity within the mind of creation, to remind myself that my thinking and my imagination invoke a creative power. And so I take time with you today to imagine my life even better than it is today, with more joy than I have today, with more ease. I imagine what it might be like to be fully sourced, funded, supported, and what good I might be able to do with that. I let myself imagine my nation as a place where love abides, where integrity and truth are givens. And I remember to trust in the power of my prayer. I began to rejoice in what I have seen and imagined and thought. It fills me with hope and gladness. I know not how or why I should expect it, but I do. And so I remember to hold this all lightly and to release this, my word of prayer, into that aspect of the divine we call the law, that which receives and goes about working out that which we have envisioned. And together we say, and so it is. I invite you to take another deep breath in and to sigh.